Without faith, you can't understand God. Only through the senses of faith can one see God. Dear brothers and sisters, we just heard these statements, the main part in the gospel today, when Jesus saying, "A little while and you will no longer see me, and a little while later you will see me." These statements confused the disciples. They were confused. They didn't understand what Jesus meant by these statements. But dear brothers and sisters, today's gospel actually gives us insight into disciples' confusion. Particularly, this background of this story was already started during the Last Supper. So they cannot actually understand what Jesus is saying. Therefore, they ask among themselves, what does this mean? They ask, Jesus has spoken about 2 short times, a little while. The disciple will no longer see him in a short time, and then in a short time they will see him. In the light of what has happening in the context of the disciples' life, we understand that the first short time or little while refers to the time between the Last Supper and Jesus' death. While the second little while or short time, it refers to the death of Jesus and the resurrection. This is very important for us to have this very fundamental understanding of this confusing statement that Jesus conveyed to his disciples. But what does it mean then for us when Jesus conveying these confused statements? A little while you will no longer see me, and a little while later you will see me. It will be very interesting for us to reflect in these very words of Jesus. Dear brothers and sisters, Jesus is speaking about 2 different kinds of seeing here. After Jesus had been crucified, his disciples will no longer see him as they have seen him during his earthly ministry. And yet, after he rises from the dead, they will see him differently, with different eyes, the eyes of faith. And it is therefore, it's important for us as believers, seeing Jesus with faith-filled eyes. Because none of us see him while he was still living. That is how we see Jesus today. We see him with the eyes of faith. We recognize him in his word, Eucharist, or each other, or in our hearts. The Lord is present to us today, and the eyes of faith allow us to see and recognize him. And of course, after recognizing him, comes to believe. While the second part of the story is that sorrow will transform into joy. The disciples were in the situation of sorrow, experience of sorrow after Jesus' death. They're weeping. But this remains the hopeful message of the gospel today, as we are still in the Easter season, that loss and sorrow do not have the last word. We believe in a God who through Jesus is always at work, bringing new life, new hope, and lasting joy for those who believe in Him. Let us open always into that invitation, and let us, the Holy Spirit, continue to inspire us, help us to always understand the message, the word of Jesus Himself that was conveyed to His disciples, but also given to each one of us today.